I struggled with severe restricting and binge eating and yo-yo dieting for over 10 years. And when people meet me now, especially at the gym, and they follow me on social media, they read my story, they are shocked because they always look at me and think, you don't look like you've ever struggled with your diet. I would have never guessed that you had a negative relationship with food in the past, that you ever struggled with that. And I totally understand. If I was in their shoes, I would probably think the same thing. And what they don't see, and why I make these videos, is the years and years and years of turmoil and mind fuckery that being in the cycle of binge eating and restricting had me stuck in. And that's why I make these videos today, to let you know that it is so possible to overcome it. And by no means is it easy or a walk in the park. I honestly had to completely change my lifestyle, completely change the way I think, completely change the way I saw myself, my identity, in order to get to this place where I am today, where I feel like I finally have a healthy relationship with food and my body. It ain't easy. And I would never lie to you and tell you that it is. It's not. But it's possible if you are determined to overcome this, which I was. I didn't know how, but I was determined to overcome it. So in today's video, I'm going to give you my top 4 tips that have really helped me overcome that binge eating, yo-yo dieting, and restricting cycle. If you see my videos before, you know I give tons of tips, and that's because I want you to have as many tools as possible in your pocket and use what you resonate with and what feels doable for you in your lifestyle. Now, if you are new to this channel, hello and welcome. My name is Vivian, but you can call me Viv, and we're going to get right into the tips. So tip number 1 is I had to stop hyper focusing and obsessing over my body. Every time I'd pass a mirror, I would check out my body. I would look at my arms. I would lift my shirt up. I would look at my stomach. Like, I was so obsessive over how I looked, and all that I was doing in reality was looking for the areas that I was not happy with. And because I did this multiple times throughout the day, I just constantly was stacking negative emotion after negative emotion after negative emotion. And the thing with binge eating is that you don't binge when you feel happy and good and fulfilled and loved and joyful. That's not when binge eating happens. Binge eating happens when you are stressed and bored and lonely and sad. That's when binge eating happens. So the more I stacked negative habits and negative actions that led me to feel stressed or anxious or depressed, it was just fueling the binge eating cycle. And it was so hard because half the time I wasn't even aware that I was body checking. At some point, it just became an unconscious habit that I kept doing. So the first step was I had to catch myself in the moment of, oh, I'm doing it again. Next step, okay, I need to stop. Next step, I need to focus on something that's going to bring me positivity. So whether that was my work or my dogs or my boyfriend or my best friend, catching myself in the moment, consciously telling myself to stop, and then consciously telling myself to focus on something that was going to bring me back to a positive state. And this took so much time, I'm going to tell you, catching myself and then rewiring the habit to avert my attention to something positive. But I will tell you that it helped so much because I stopped that stress and anxiety and that cycle of just feeling so down and negative about myself, which was, again, just leading and fueling the binge eating cycle. So tip number 1 was learning how to stop hyper focusing on my body, hyper fixating on my body and the scale, if you feel like that also really puts you in a negative headspace. Now, tip number 2 is starting the morning off with a positive audio and with movement. Now, movement doesn't have to be the gym. It doesn't have to be running. For me, what that looks like is that I clean my house. I vacuum and then I mop every morning. And while I'm doing that, I listen to a positive audio. Who I really love listening to right now is Earl Nightingale. You can search him on YouTube. He has so many audios and talks that you can listen to, but I love his voice. I love his message. I so resonate with him, and he always puts me in a positive headspace. So even when I wake up feeling anxious or negative or depressed, As soon as I put him on, he gives me the kick in the butt that I need to remind myself how lucky I am for the life I have today. And no matter what negativity may be going on in my life, there is always something positive that I can focus on. There's always something that I can be grateful for. And that's never a mindset that I used to have. I used to only hyper fixate on the things that were negative and were going wrong and what I need to fix. And again, all that did was put me in a worried, stressful, anxious state for the rest of the day. So starting my morning with that positive audio of, hey, everyone has problems. Everybody has crap they go through. Okay, but successful people learn how to solve their problems. You are capable of solving your problems if you have your hands and your feet, you have legs and arms. If you have a working brain, there's nothing that you can't solve. You are capable of fixing any problem in your life. So hearing that over and over again was the confidence that I needed to go about my day and conquer whatever life threw at me instead of being in the victim mentality. So combining that positive audio with the movement of cleaning and just moving my body rather than sitting or laying bed helped raise my endorphins, release those endorphins, those feel good chemicals in your body, plus the positive audio. And it set a positive tone for the rest of the day so that no matter what came my way, I was able to conquer it in a way that I had confidence, that I felt good about myself, that I could see the positivity in it, that I could see the benefit in the obstacle. And again, we binge when we don't feel good, when we don't feel stressed, when we don't feel confident, when we're in a low state. So making sure that I set myself up for success so that I was in a positive, confident state every morning helped keep me in that state for the rest of the day, every day. So that really helped prevent those binges that I used to have to escape my negative emotions because I was no longer having such negative emotions since I would catch it early in the day. Tip number 3 is to keep high binge foods out of the house. So I will give you an example. A high binge food for me is ice cream. When I have ice cream in the house, I feel like I'm just constantly thinking about it, how I want it, but how I shouldn't have it. And it's just consuming too much of my mental energy. However, something that is not a high binge food for me, but I still really enjoy are popsicles. So what I did that really, really helped me was I started to keep foods in the house that I previously restricted myself from and still things that I really enjoy that I found delicious, but not so delicious or so addictive where I was constantly thinking about it and I couldn't stop. So what I did was I would keep treats in the house that I previously restricted myself from because I wanted to get out of the restriction mindset, but again, not so palatable or rewarding foods where I was just thinking about it all day and then that would lead me to binge. And what I did is I would start working my way up and adding in more and more and more foods into my house that were a little bit more tempting, a little bit more tempting, a little bit more tempting, but only so much more where yes, I still had to fight those urges, but it wasn't so bad where I couldn't think about anything else. So I basically give myself a little bit of a mental challenge each week, but only enough that I felt like I could handle. If I felt like I was having a really hard week, then I wouldn't up the ante and try to go for a higher, more rewarding food. I would just stay where I was. So let's just say, for example, that was a popsicle. Okay, I'm going to stay at popsicle level until I feel like I can handle that. I can eat it in moderation. I'm not hyper focusing on it. And once I feel like I've mastered the popsicle, next step is cookies. Okay, let's say cookies. Okay, cookies. Oh gosh, I don't know if I can control myself, but it's not ice cream. It's still something that I enjoy, but not so much where I feel the need to, I really can't control myself. So then I would practice with having cookies in the house, eating them slowly, incorporating them each night when I felt like I was having those cravings. Once I felt like I mastered that and it didn't have control over me, next step, let's say chips or goldfish. So you get the picture, but adding in foods that you previously restricted but aren't calling you so strongly where you feel like you just can't control yourself. And then once you feel like you've mastered that level, think of what the next food would be as that was previously off limits to you, and then use that as your next mental challenge. Tip number 4 is something that I actually heard from Earl Nightingale, which I mentioned in tip number 2, And he said that people are just as happy as they make up their minds to be. And that really hit me because I live with my boyfriend who has gone through so many tough times, yet he chooses to be happy no matter what, no matter what's going on around him. He makes the decision that he's going to be happy and he's going to be positive because being negative doesn't do anything. And so living with somebody who consciously makes the decision to be happy every day and then hearing that from Earl was so inspiring for me because it made me realize that I have the decision to be happy. I'm just not choosing it. I'm choosing to complain and look at what's wrong and look at the negative and hyper focus on the things that I don't like. And so realizing that I had the decision to be happy in every circumstance and that I had the decision and choice that I could be happy and look for things that make me happy, regardless of what's going on around in my environment, was a huge game changer for me because it put the power back in my hands of, oh my gosh, my happiness is not controlled by my external circumstances, which I previously thought they were. If something bad happened, if somebody said something negative, I thought that that meant I should be unhappy. Now, when something like that happens and I feel myself starting to spiral into negativity, I go, no, I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose to be happy in this moment because I do have the power and I'm going to focus on the things that put me in a good headspace. So yes, this crappy thing may be happening over here, but what can I focus on in this moment that will put me in the positive state that I want to be in? I have 4 amazing puppies, Rottweilers that I love, and I could go see them right now and pet them and love on them, and that easily would put me back in a positive state. Or I could focus on the clients that I'm so lucky that I get to work with and help. And I can really just pour myself into that person or whoever's needing my help in this moment and just take myself out of it. So I realized that it was a conscious decision that I had to make that I could be happy in any moment, any day, no matter what was going on around me. But I had to make the decision first that I was going to be happy, that I was going to be positive. I'm going to look for the things that are going to put me in a positive state. I'm going to make that decision every moment of every day. And this takes a very long time when you've wired yourself to look at the negative and to look at what's stressing you, which is what I have previously done. But like any other habit that I'm telling you right now, it's hard in the beginning. It sucks. It's uncomfortable. But the more you do it, the more it will become part of your identity and part of your habits and part of your lifestyle. And eventually you're going to do it on automatic. And I feel like that is exactly where I'm getting to, where it's almost automatic for me to just put myself in a positive, happy state and catch myself when I'm feeling negative because I've practiced that habit so much. But in the beginning, it did not feel automatic and it did not feel natural or comfortable for me. Okay. And it's something that I've really had to practice. So I hope that you have found these tips helpful. They truly have changed the way that I live, that I see myself, my identity, my mindset, how I go about my day, how I approach every action, every task, every to-do list, and every person in my day. I consciously make the decision to approach everything I do each day with as much joy and love and positivity and light as I possibly can muster in that moment, including right now. Now, if you want to work with me one-on-one for fat loss mastery and overcoming yo-yo dieting, then please head to www.teamevolve.co. You can also follow me on Instagram at Vivian No and on TikTok at Vivian No with an underscore at the end. Otherwise, if you want to see more binge eating content from me and how I was able to overcome it, then go ahead and click this video right here. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!